Aloha, Paul E. Hendricks. I haven't done a video blog in a long time, or at least it feels that way, so I want to do one right now. I was inspired, maybe you read this blog I wrote this past Saturday called So You Want to Be a Writer, Huh? And in that blog I addressed many people that come to me and ask me about the hows of writing and the whole how do I start, and I have all these questions and sometimes I coddle them, and I guess I find that that's not the most effective way. What I realized was when I sat down to write a book, and it was an arduous process, and that voice in my head, that voice of the ego, of resistance, was so powerful that I had to discover the voice inside me, which ended up being the misfit and outlaw, the exact person I was writing about, to combat the voice of resistance, that ego, because it's a strong adversary, a respectful adversary that's very good at giving me every excuse in the world of why I shouldn't sit down and write. And if I wanted to defend myself against it, I had to use that version of myself. I had to go inside and find that version, that misfit and outlaw that was a obnoxious, smartass, can be an asshole, that's strong, powerful, and that was the voice that would tell me to get off my ass and start writing. And I think in you, if you can find that version of yourself, it will benefit you no matter what it is, writing, music, entrepreneurial, new venture. You got to find that version in yourself to combat that voice of resistance. So not by coincidence, after I wrote that blog, I wanted to go to the beach and read, and I have read through all the books that I had, and turned and looked at my coffee table and noticed this book, The War of Art by Steven Pressfield, who also authored several other books, The Legend of Bagger Vance, which was later turned into a major motion picture with Will Smith, and my friend Joey Young, who you may hear if you listen to Be About It Radio, the podcast that we do. He had brought this book over a couple weeks earlier, had read it, encouraged me to read it, and I just kind of left it sitting there. So looking for a new book to read. Of course, there's no coincidence. The War of Art is the book I picked up. The whole book is about the voice of resistance. Amazing. It was great. I almost wish I would have wrote the book myself. And I knew Steven Pressfield, although he wrote it 10 years ago, somehow knew that 10 years later I'd be reading it, because it felt like he wrote it directly to me. And as I finished it, there's a chapter in here I want to share with you that I think will resonate with you. Anyone out there that wants to create something, be it a painter, a musician, a writer, a new venture, whatever it is. What I recognize, we all have the same voice, that's that voice of opposition, that ego that wants us to stay safe, doesn't want us to evolve, doesn't want us to grow, doesn't want us to create. And this chapter reminded me of Marianne Williamson's Our Greatest Fear. And I want to read it to you. I hope you don't mind that I'm going to read it to you, and I really hope Steven Pressfield doesn't mind, but I think it would really, really benefit people to hear this. You ready? Resistance feeds on fear. We experience resistance as fear, but fear of what? Fear of the consequences of following our heart, fear of bankruptcy, fear of poverty, fear of insolvency, fear of groveling when we try to make it on our own, and of groveling when we give up and come crawling back to where we started, fear of being selfish, of being rotten wives or disloyal husbands, fear of failing to support our families or sacrificing their dreams for ours. Fear of betraying our race, our hood, our homies. Fear of failure. Fear of being ridiculous. Fear of throwing away the education, the training, the preparation that those we love have sacrificed so much for, that we ourselves have worked our butts off for. Fear of launching into the void, of hurtling too far out there. Fear of passing some point of no return, beyond which we cannot recant, cannot reverse, cannot rescind, but must live with this cocked up choice for the rest of our lives. Fear of madness, fear of insanity, fear of death. These are serious fears, but they're not the real fear, not the master fear, the mother of all fears that's so close to us that even when we verbalize it, we don't believe it. Fear that we will succeed, that we can access the powers we secretly know we possess, that we can become the person we sense in our hearts we truly are. This is the most terrifying aspect a human being can face, because it ejects him at one go from all the tribal inclusions his psyche is wired for and has been for 50 million years. We fear discovering that we are more than we think we are, more than our parents, children, teachers think we are. We fear that we actually possess the talent that our still small voice tells us, that we actually have the guts, the perseverance, the capacity. We fear that we truly can steer our ship, plant our flag, reach our promised land. We fear this because, if it's true, then we become estranged from all we know. We pass through a membrane. We become monsters and monstrous. We know that if we embrace our ideals, we must prove worthy of them, and that scares the hell out of us. What will become of us? We will lose our friends and family who will no longer recognize us. We will wind up alone in the cold void of starry space with nothing and no one to hold on to. Of course, this is exactly what happens. But here's the trick. We wind up in space, but not alone. Instead, we are tapped into an unquenchable, undepletable, inexhaustible source of wisdom, consciousness, companionship. Yeah, we lose friends, but we find friends too, in places we never thought to look. And they're better friends, truer friends, and we're better and truer to them. Do you believe me? I have chicken skin right now, goosebumps just reading that. And as I read it again, and it brought tears to my eyes because it's so true. You know, that's why I said it reminded me of Our Greatest Fear by Marianne Williamson, and just, you know, reiterated the fact that that voice of resistance, those fears that we have are so strong, yet we are so much more powerful than we think. There is that voice inside me, it's inside of you, that passion, that reason you chose into this very existence to let that song that's in your soul sing. So why aren't you letting it sing? Because you're afraid of failure, afraid of what people might think? Screw that. Be a leader. I know I quelched that song. I suppressed that song in my soul for so many years. And just by writing the books that I've written and doing what I love to do is so liberating. I'm more free in my life than ever before. And I thought that maybe this would help you. Once you can choose into that dream, that passion, and let that soul sing, let your soul sing, you'll find that freedom too. Give the world your gift. Don't hold on to it because you're afraid. You're afraid of failing. You're afraid of critics. You're afraid of people might think. I want to hear your song. I want to read what you got to write. The world does. That's why you're here. Don't let the fear prevent you. Let your soul sing. And buy this book, The War of Art. It's an amazing book. It's simple, it's funny, and it'll also let you know that you're not the only one facing those fears. No matter what it is you want to do, we all are connected. We all have the same fears. Make today the day you start letting your soul sing. Mahalo nui loa. Aloha.